to move slower than the rest of the world. The cobblestone streets, the ivy-covered bridges, and the gentle flow of the river Alder made it a place where stories were born and often lingered like perfume in the air. It was here that Claire Whitmore returned after 10 long years. Claire, once a quiet girl who scribbled poetry on napkins at the local cafe, had left Elmsworth chasing dreams of art and adventure. Now a successful illustrator in London, she returned for her grandmother's funeral and found herself swept back into a world she thought she had outgrown, and into the presence of a man she had never quite forgotten. Ethan Cole had stayed. The boy who once shared his childhood with Claire was now a man who ran his late father's bookstore. Time had painted wisdom into his eyes and strength into his shoulders, but when he smiled, it was still the same, a little crooked, a little shy. Their reunion was cautious at first. They met in the old cafe, now slightly renovated but still familiar. He offered her tea. She accepted. Their conversation started with memories and slowly wandered into confessions. "I still remember the sketch you gave me," Ethan said one evening, the soft lamplight catching the glint in his eyes. "The one of the tree by the river. I kept it." Claire blinked. "You did?" "It reminded me of you. And I guess, of the way things used to feel." Over the days that followed, they took long walks by the riverbank, just as they used to. They spoke of missed chances, broken hearts, and what it meant to come home. He showed her how the town had changed. She showed him how she had, too. As summer deepened, so did their connection. One golden evening, they stood on the bend of the river, where wildflowers danced in the wind and the water shimmered like liquid glass. "I thought I'd buried this part of myself," Claire whispered. "The part that believed in simple things. In love that stays." Ethan took her hand, his touch warm and steady. "You didn't bury it. You just forgot where to look." And in that moment, the years between them dissolved. Claire didn't leave Elmsworth that summer. What was supposed to be a brief visit stretched into seasons. She began painting the town, its people, its river, its soul. Ethan's bookstore started carrying her work. He would leave her notes and books, little messages tucked between pages. By the time winter arrived, Claire had moved into the small cottage near the riverbend, where they had shared their first kiss as teenagers. Now older, wiser, and braver, they kissed again beneath the snow-covered branches, a promise, a beginning. Love, they realized, doesn't always need fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes, it lives quietly in the places we come back to. In the books we keep. In the sketch someone saved. And most of all, in the gentle bend of a river where two hearts found their way home. Beneath the midnight pines. In the quiet town of Eldon Ridge, hidden between silver rivers and pine-covered hills, lived a young woman named Alara Winters. She was the town's librarian, a gentle soul who wore her solitude like a shawl and spent her evenings lost in the pages of old poetry and forgotten letters. Every day, Alara watched the world move outside her window, children growing, lovers quarreling and reuniting, seasons changing like the colors of her books. But her own heart remained untouched, sealed like the dusty covers of the volumes on her shelves. Until one autumn evening. He walked in with the scent of rain on his coat and a compass tattooed on his wrist. His name was Selim Hart, a traveling photographer searching for forgotten places to capture and stories to preserve. Alara noticed how his eyes flickered across the room like someone remembering a dream. When he asked where the town kept its oldest maps, she pointed him to the back room. Then, for reasons unknown, followed him there. They spoke little at first. He studied the lines on the old maps, and she watched the way he gently traced them as if the past still breathed beneath his fingertips. Over days that melted into weeks, their silence became comfort, and then language. He would show her his photos, faces caught in laughter, abandoned railroads swallowed by ivy, reflections of sky in puddles. She would read him poems, Pablo Neruda, Rumi, and verses she quietly wrote but never shared until him. One evening, as the first snow dusted the pines outside, Alara found a photograph slipped between the pages of her favorite book. It was of her, unaware, surrounded by books, a soft light falling on her like dawn. On the back, in his careful handwriting, were the words, "You are the story I never expected to find." Their love didn't arrive like thunder or burning stars. It came slowly, like snow falling in silence. Like a soft breath against cold glass. Selim began staying longer between travels, and Eldon Ridge started to feel like a home rather than a stop. Together, they built a world of small rituals, Sunday morning pancakes, long walks beneath pine canopies, a shared journal where they wrote letters to each other even while sitting in the same room. But love, like the seasons, isn't without its storms. One day, Selim received an offer to work on a photography expedition in Norway, an opportunity he'd dreamed of for years. He held the ticket in his hand like a fragile bird, uncertain whether to release it. "I want you to go," Alara whispered one night, curled beside him beneath a blanket. "The world needs to see what you see." "And what about what I see in you?" he asked softly. She kissed him gently, like a promise sealed in silence. Selim left that winter. Alara returned to her library, her days filled with the echo of his laughter, the scent of pine on his old sweater, and the letters he mailed from every city, each one a chapter of their story still being written. A year passed. On the first day of spring, a boy ran into the library with a package wrapped in brown paper. It was from Selim. Inside was a book, a collection of his photographs titled The Light Between Pines. The dedication read, "To Alara, whose soul is made of ink and starlight. I'm coming home." That evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, she walked to the edge of the pine forest where they used to sit. And there, beneath the midnight pines, stood Selim, camera around his neck, heart in his hands, eyes full of the sky. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. Some love stories aren't loud. They're quiet and true. Like a compass always pointing home.